Hello, hello. Hello. So, yeah, I'll go to the start there. I'll kind of tell you my story as a ex-professional shark wrestler. No, I'm just kidding. I actually lost my shoulder and arm to cancer about 5 years ago, so that'll kind of be the theme this afternoon. What you see here is a plastic prosthetic, just to kind of fill out some symmetry in the shirt. So everything from my rib cage out is missing. So I wear a plastic prosthetic there. So the theme, though, is bitter or better. Every day begins with a choice. You can choose to be bitter or better. One vowel changes your entire life every single day. So I can't thank you guys enough for this opportunity. I love to share. My way of giving back is being able to share this and prove that cancer doesn't have to destroy to make an impact. It can actually leave a positive legacy behind it. So I can't thank you enough. Andrea, thank you for this opportunity. So I'm going to the full story is about over an hour, but I know I'm on a time limit, so you're going to be feeding from a fire hose, if you will, this afternoon. But it's not going to be pretty in some areas, for sure. Cancer is not a very pretty thing, but you never have a miracle unless there's a problem, and there's never a testimony without the test. So the book of Brandon, kind of give you my story a little bit here. We all have stories to tell. Our stories can either devastate somebody or elevate somebody. So I encourage all of you to put your testimony down on paper. You can impact somebody's life. The questions that I'll kind of answer today is the what happened, when did it happen, and most importantly, why did this happen to me? So what happened? Obviously it's cancer, but how did it start out? I was actually sitting in a meeting at Sure Tape Technologies. They make duct tape up in Hickory, North Carolina. And I was sitting at a safety meeting, folded my arms like this into my armpits, and I found a knot a little bit smaller than a quarter on the upper right portion of my bicep. Didn't waste any time to go get it checked out. Went to a local surgeon, did a biopsy, and said this could be cancer. I'm just turned 30 years old. I got to enjoy 3 months after my 30th birthday. Cancer, that's an old person's disease. I'm 30. There's got to be something else. So they sent me to Wake Forest to go get it kind of diagnosed even further. And what they told me is that this is a benign disease. It's called synovial osteochondromatosis. That's not a Harry Potter spell. That's actually a real disease. I just didn't put a hex on you guys. It's the synovial fluid inside of your joint mine was hardening. That disease hardens that fluid, which is causing these little marbles to fill up inside of my ball and socket joint. So I was like, great, it's not cancer, get it out of there. So they did the operation, removed that, cleaned out the joint. I get a phone call. I'm standing in Walmart, of all places. God has a great sense of humor. In the grocery aisle, and picked up the phone. It was a 919 area code. Picked it up. It was my doctor, and she said, "You have cancer." Now she didn't say it like that, but that's what my brain interpreted as the sensory overload. I just couldn't believe it that I have cancer at 30 years old. So going through that process, it was a merry-go-round. Like I said, I was misdiagnosed, so it wasn't cancer. It was a very rare type after her explaining to me what it was. It was called chondrosarcoma, is what I lived with. 3 operations over the next 8 months consisted of trying to save the limb. But I got sent to Duke Cancer Center, and I'll pause there for a second because I'm actually a Carolina Tar Heel fan. So being sent to Duke to save your life, again, God has a great sense of humor, but I swallowed my pride and humbled myself to go, and I'm lucky I did, because when I showed up there, they knew about my case. It's not a competition when it comes to cancer. So they knew my case. They were just able to put a face with it. And they found it in my left lung that had metastasized after that operation. So I went in a 4-hour window. I went from losing my limb, thinking I was going to do that, to now I'm sitting in pre-op for 2 days later to have my lung operated on. I knew then it was really serious because now it's affecting vital organs, which is much more important than a shoulder. But I can't explain in the words how that emotional roller coaster was that afternoon in that 4-hour window. So they put the amputation on hold. They did the lung operation, which was by far the worst operation to try to recover from. The other operations were fine. If my arm hurt, don't move it, right? But you can't stop one lung from breathing. So every single breath was like I was breathing fire for about 5 weeks until I fully recovered. So, going to the next slide there. So the timeline of the rapid changes there, I got diagnosed July 3rd of 2012. 3 operations went through. I had my lung operation, you're not going to believe this, on Friday the 13th, December 13th of 2013. That was when the lung operation was, but I had 4 operations total that year. And then the amputation was May the 28th, 2014. I say that because it's been over 5 years now, and I can't remember what it's like to have that arm. Of course, I have memories of it, but the actual feeling of having an arm is vacant now. I don't know what that feels like. I do deal with the nerve pain since they severed that nerve. The best way I can explain it, it's like, remember the old televisions where it shows the black and white fuzz, right? The static. If you could turn that into a feeling, that's what I feel 24/7 on my right side. It just feels like those nerves are trying to operate something because they were designed to control something, but they just don't have anything to control anymore. So the ride thus far has all been physical. I'll hit the pause button and we'll take you on the psychological journey, which is by far the hardest. I became a very bitter person, which was kind of a shock to some. I'd always been raised well. Mother and father taught me do unto others. But I fell into a pit. I became very bitter. And I kept asking myself, why me? You know, there's a lot of people out there that deserve this a lot more than I do. But hopefully you'll see through this journey I now live, why not me? But I'll kind of cover that later. But I was looking for answers in the wrong places. Tried it desperately in alcohol. Tried it desperately in pills. Tried it desperately in baggies as well. Didn't find an answer, only found new questions. Completely broken. Out of money. I'm sure you know that hospital bills are very expensive. My friends were gone. They are now referred to as sunny day friends. Those friends that are around when things are good, things are great, but you know, when the storm comes, they kind of disappear. My own best friend, who I knew since T-ball, said, "I wish that cancer would go ahead and kill you." Now, I don't know if that was me being a bitter person, caused him to say that. No, he was very intoxicated when he said it, but I have since forgiven him. We're not as close as we used to be, but we're very cordial with one another, so I don't hold any disdain towards that. And I just felt like I was just completely wrapped. If anybody's ever dealt with depression, it's a comfortable, dark blanket. You don't know how to shed it off. You kind of just get enveloped in this cloak of darkness. And negative thoughts were surrounding me, whispers, even thoughts of suicide. I thought, you know what? I can just end it now. Why suffer through this? My friends, my family, they can just pick up the pieces after I'm gone, and I'll just eliminate myself out of this situation so I don't even have to deal with it anymore. But I did have people that cared for me, that were watching me go through this, and I had the best advice I've ever gotten, ever, which was that I do have a choice. Choose your path. Do you believe in God? What kind of legacy are you going to leave behind? So choose your path. I did my own research, and I found Matthew 16:24. If any of you wants to be my follower, you must turn from your selfish ways, pick up your cross daily, and follow me. There's nothing fun about picking up a cross daily, but I decided to pick mine up every single day, and I continue to do so. The worst advice I've ever received is be yourself. The best advice I've ever received is be like Jesus. So a good friend of mine who had actually led me into church, his name is Eric Johnson, works at Sure Tape to this day, saw me going through this, saw me being very bitter. He said, "Brandon, I don't even know how you pick your head up off the pillow every day. I don't know if I could ever do it, but what I'm seeing out of you is a completely different person. He said, you're being really bitter right now. I know you've openly said that, but I want to challenge you to be better. He said, when you wake up every single day, there's an easy way to remember it. When you wake up and you only focus on yourself, focus on what you need to do for yourself, it's being very bitter. You're focusing on the I in bitter. He said, wake up and be better. Focus on the E, which means everybody else, and watch the world open up to you. I said that with almost blood in my mouth, because who is this man trying to tell me how to live with this disease? But he planted a seed at that moment. It was up to me to be the proper soil for it to grow. But after a period of time, I lived into it. So going on to the legacy side of things, the most important, why did this happen to me? So you got to choose your legacy. As John Maxwell says, people hear your words, but they feel your attitude. I'm starting to figure out that through the example that I see is that the world owes me nothing. It doesn't owe me anything. I owe it everything. It's a great example led by Jesus. One of the most influential things I've heard, I was actually getting occupational therapy when the lady said this. And she said, Brandon, happiness is a mood. Contentment is a lifestyle. I said, say that again. I said, happiness is a mood. Contentment is a lifestyle. Think about that. Moods change. We're happy, we're sad. But if you can be content in your circumstances, it doesn't matter what happens to you. You're always going to be content through them. It's the choice of easy or hard emotions. Easy emotions, I'm sure we know those. Jealousy, hate, rage, greed, envy. The list goes on and on for easy emotions that just require instinct. But hard emotions, is spoken in Galatians 5:22, they're the hard ones. The love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and self-control, most important. I've battled with that for a long time, but I try to be the fruit of the Spirit now to anyone that I come in contact with. So I want to do a little experiment here. So put your hand over your eye for me, like that. Now I'm forced to only have one hand. You guys can use two if you'd like to use binoculars. I'm forced to use the binocular. But what's your scope right now? Are you seeing red in your daily life to where you're just so angry at everything and bitter about everything? Are you blue right now because you're so depressed you can hardly take a breath? Do you see green? Is fame and fortune and money all you're chasing right now? I had to self-diagnose myself, and is it all about the presence that I get for myself, or is it presence like this moment right here? It sounds very similar, but the meanings are truly remarkably different. Do I want the things that Samsung or Apple can buy me that doesn't fill me up and give me worth? Or do I want to be around people that elevate me to personally grow in my life? So you got to, about going back on the friends thing, you build quality of friendships. The sad fact is you don't really need 100 pennies when 4 quarters will do. It's all about the value of people that you have around you. Doctors have given me right around 500 days left. I currently live with 70 spots in my left and right lungs collectively, with no worldly cure to kind of rid me of this disease. The rarity of it is because of that situation. Pharmaceutical companies don't really focus on rare types. They want to cure the masses. It took me a while to get used to that, but I get it. I completely understand it. Why cure 50,000 people worldwide when you cure breast cancer and help millions? So I truly feel like that money is being invested in the proper place. But my whole goal is not to let cancer destroy me. It might get my body, but it'll never destroy my mind. So my responsibility now, that's my wife and daughter there. Sorry. Every time I see them, that's my responsibility. If I do happen to pass away, I want to make sure, number one, when and if Jordan decides to remarry, she marries up. She finds someone better than me. My daughter, when she starts dating, if I'm unable to see that, I hope she finds a man like me that also finds someone better than me to live a life with. One area I did not cover, and I skipped right over, is most importantly, would you want to know if you're going to die or not? Would you want to know your expiration date? Raise your hand if you would. Got 1, 2. Would it make you live your life with more purpose every day? Would you open the door for a stranger? Would you smile at somebody you normally wouldn't do? Would you call your kids or your family members more and tell them how much you love them every single day? And you don't have any time to waste, because now someone has given you an expiration date. Now I've already lived past all the doctor's expectations. I should have been dead on the operating table. After a 12-hour surgery, lost so much blood, they barely could keep the blood in as the blood was pouring out. So I've already outlived the odds. Every single day now is just a gift. But I always like to ask that question. I'm curious. Thank you guys for answering it, honestly. The next part here is my letter to cancer. I'm going to try my best to make it through it. In my faith journey, I'm called to pray for my enemies. Cancer has been my enemy since being diagnosed. I can't physically see my enemy, so I can't forgive it face to face. So I figured this was the only way I could do so. It goes like this. Dear Cancer, I must thank you. Thank you for everything you've brought me since being diagnosed. I've gained faith, a wife, new family members, new friends, and a perspective on what life means. Most likely, I would not have any of those things without you. I used to hate you because I realized I didn't know you. I learned a lot about you since being diagnosed and you becoming part of my life. To hate you means that I hate myself because you are a part of me. You are made up of my cells. You just didn't know how to die correctly. Well, guess what? I'm messed up too, and I don't know how to die right either. You have been my enemy for over 6 years now. You've taken parts of my body, my mind at times, and most hobbies that I used to enjoy. I'm called to pray for my enemies, so I will start to pray for you. I pray that you will start to be understood more clearly. I also pray that one day you will find peace and rest as well, and know that you didn't have to destroy something to be recognized. Best regards, your host. Again, that is the synopsis of the journey. Again, it's usually about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes long. From the bottom of my heart, I can't thank you enough for allowing me to share this and having some way to turn cancer into a positive thing instead of a negative thing. Thank you guys so much.